She's amazing. Like in my coach with her, I had a really good experience. I managed to even like talk with my grandma through the channeling. So it was very, very like shocking experience. So I totally recommend it for anyone who wants to try or wants to get to know more about themselves. Thank you so much, everyone who connected today. We have the lovely Anne-Margaret here with us. So finally we made it. So yeah, basically, Anne-Margaret, she's a spiritual coach. She's also have this ability of doing channelings as well. So Anne-Margaret, if you can tell us to our followers and the people who joined today, more or less what you do.
Anybody who knows Dali knows that she has an incredibly bright light, and it's the reason why people are on here with you right now. And I had the pleasure of meeting her through a guy who's like a little brother to me. So it's so good to be on here with you, Dali. Thank you for everything you do and for having me on here.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And I'm coming to you from Colorado in the United States. My husband and I moved out here after about 20 years in New York City. So we're so excited to be closer to nature. And I know you guys are all in London. Most of your followers are probably in London.
Well, we're in lockdown here, so it's not great.
I know.
We do what we can.
That's right. That's right. And the reason why I'm coming on the live today is also just to share some tips for today with going into the new year and ways that just simple tools that we can use, very practical tools to raise our vibration. My husband and I have a company called Raise the Vibration. That's our website, raisevibration.com. And we have been teachers for over almost 20 years now. And I'm also a spiritual channel. So there has been, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll leave a little nugget to come to you in a little bit. But I've been teaching for almost 20 years, and I had a yoga studio in New York City for about 18 years. And then a little over a year and a half ago, we sold that studio to move out west to be closer to my family. And so I've been in a very microcosmic existence with that community in New York City and being the mom pa of a spiritual center. And now I'm taking everything online. So I'm taking all my trainings, all my teaching, my coaching, and now the channeling also online to create more of an online community. And we need it now more than ever.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because, 2020 hasn't been an easy year for anyone.
That's right.
So what are your tips for like start the new year in a better mood? Also, like, I mean, I'm not sure if it happened to you, but like there are so many people in a very negative state of mind. So what are your tips on like how to like increase your vibration? Like, I know it's easier like to get, we're all energy. So it's really easy to get affected by people who have this like negative mentality.
So
you connect
true.
on the news and it's also everything is negative. So what are your tips to start the new year in a better like mood, to raise your spirits and also have a better 2021?
Yes, well, I have studied human dynamics for a very long time, my whole adult career, and I've noticed that we really are driven by our fears or our passions. And when we are driven by fear, which we have been inundated and really saturated by for this entire year almost, we have to know how to alchemize. And anybody who doesn't know that word, alchemize just means extract the gold from something that's seemingly wasteful. And fear is very much a controlling force. It can be used to weaponize something. It can be used to protect us from really living our full purpose. And so I think what's most important, and we're only going to be able to cover what we're going to be able to cover in this short live, but the tools I'm going to give you today is just a very practical way to apply your spirituality, your spiritual growth, your connection to your own spirit, your connection to God or spirit or source or whatever name you give that energy, and really understand what fear is. So most people look at fear, because that's what we've been saturated in. Most people look at fear like it's the enemy, like it's a bad thing. But if we can instead, and if we look at it like that, it has more power. It has more power to kind of cripple us and mobilize us to take action, which is what we all want to do, right? We all want to manifest what it is we want in this life. It's such a gift to be on this planet, to be alive. And yet most of us just kind of suffer through it,
and also sometimes I feel people, they stay in fear to to kind of like justify things that you are not like ready to do, because it's like
Yeah.
you have to identify like whether like fear is good, is good because you
Yes.
feel alive and you are ready to do things, or also when you're
Right.
using fear to uncover other things that maybe you want to do but you don't are ready to do it, or like you feel that it's easier to like stay in that state of mind within the fear rather than just like do it. um,
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's how we use it. It's like anything. It's like a hammer is a very valuable tool to make a house, but to hit
yeah,
yourself over the head obviously is not the design of the tool. We have
yeah,
to look at it. And if everything, if we look at fear like a bad thing or really anything as like a negative force in the world, we don't know how to use it. And it has
yeah,
control over us. So the first thing to do as we're looking in hindsight at 2020 or looking
yeah,
ahead is, what are our fears? Our fears are really like the X marking the spot. It's
mm-hmm,
where we need to dig. It's where to
yeah,
go to work. And
yeah.
it's the things that keep us, like you said, from taking the leap that we falsely believe we're not ready to go after yet. And so many times,
Exactly.
like, our fear or our anxiety is just unexpressed excitement. We're like,
Yeah,
we're excited and we know that we have a purpose. We know that we have a gift for the world. We know we want X, Y, and Z out of the next year and in our lives. But it's almost like we're much rather be in our safety, secure
yeah,
zone.
exactly. Yeah, it happens to me all the time. Even like to do
Sure.
these kind of videos, I knew I always wanted to do it, but I was like always scared, like, oh, should I do it or not? So,
Yes.
and
It
also
takes a
like for
lot of
example,
courage.
exactly. And also, for example, what do you do if like you live with somebody who is like very negative, or you go out or like see the news and everything you're surrounded is like negative? Like how you shield your
Yes.
energy to
Yes.
don't get these people, like when you meet sometimes some people that they are very negative, you feel that your energy suck
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
completely. Uh,
Vampires.
and exactly, vampires of energy. And in
Yeah.
2020, like everything has felt like that. It's like a big weight that everyone is having on their shoulders.
Hmm.
So what are your recommendations for like how to stay positive, how to, even if it's hard with this situation, how to still stay positive and materialize what you want for 2021?
Well, it's a big question
Yeah.
because, you know, and I say that because I am not a teacher that falsely kind of paints like this is the thing that's going to fix
Yeah.
your entire life now, right? I really believe in consistency. I believe in doing the work, and with
Yeah.
the work comes freedom. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I have set up for my followers, some of my students, is a workshop, an 8-week long workshop of
Mm-hmm.
how to integrate new patterns so that you can actually have real lasting change in your life,
Yeah.
rather than feeling like we all have in 2020, kind of like a pinball in a pinball machine, kind of bounced around by fear, by circumstances,
Yeah.
etc. So to answer the first part of your question, which is, what do you do when you're surrounded by people who are sucking your energy, or you
Mm-hmm.
feel like
The
this
word is like,
toxicity?
yeah,
uh,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, fine. Well, the first thing I would do is pay attention to how you're investing your time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very important. What are you investing your time in? Are you investing your time in things that are fear mongering? So
Okay.
many times we'll invest something in programming or conversations or people. We'll surround ourselves with people who we might feel comfortable with because
Mm-hmm.
we've known them for a long time, but they are further solidifying very dysfunctional patterns in our life.
Yeah.
So it's looking at time investment. Time is energy. Your energy, you have only a certain amount of.
That's
It
true.
is the greatest asset you have. I don't care how much money you have or don't have. We all have the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And our energy is based on how we invest that time. I
Yeah.
was saying that if we're around people that we do not feel empowered by, people that have more of a heaviness or darkness to
Yeah.
them, then we have to treat ourselves with how strong we are. Okay, when you go to the gym, you don't lift, if you're first time going to the gym, you don't lift a 50-pound weight. You just
Yeah.
don't. You lift maybe a 2-3 pound 5-pound weight, and you begin training yourself with where you are.
Yeah.
So the same goes with your spiritual training. your mental training, your
Mm-hmm.
emotional training. The same
Yeah.
goes with that. So if you think about being around people, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the way that I work with my clients and all my students is that everything is a blessing. Everything is God. Everything
Yeah.
has the spirit in it if we know how to use it. It's
Yeah.
about the alchemy of it. How do you extract the gold from the challenges? And man, have we had them in 2020. So it's like if the people around us are more in the negative realm or thought process, it says
Yeah.
the opportunity there is, okay, how do I either abstain from this person for a little bit
Yeah.
until I feel stronger where I can be
Yeah.
around them and still stay rooted in my energy? How can I abstain from this food that literally lowers my vibrational frequency
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my body? How do I do things that really keep my energy vibrant and high? Because we do not get, what are we all afraid of? The
Yeah.
virus, right? What are we afraid of? Getting sick. The body does not get sick unless it dips below a certain frequency. This is all
Yeah.
scientific. It's not woo woo. I'm like a huge fan of science and I'm a big
That's true.
skeptic. If we learn how to first go to the gym and lift that 2 pound weight, maybe it looks like not being around those people right now. And then when you get even stronger in your spirituality, when you get even
Yeah.
stronger with your mind and your emotions, you can be around people and really take whatever the challenge is and be excited by it. Like, wow, this person, not to like get them to change, but to
Yeah.
strengthen you from within so that you can be around anyone and anything. That's freedom and not lower your vibration.
That's really good. Even for example, myself, I'm not sure if it works or not, but like yesterday I sit down and I wrote a list of things that made me happy. So
Yeah, yeah,
after finishing the list is actually like a really nice process because even
yes,
things as like, I don't know, like having a nice meal or watching a movie, like having a bath, these kind of things are like good to list them. And it not
yes,
necessarily has to be something like expensive. It could be something that brings happiness to you, like putting your
that's right.
PJs. I'm so happy when I'm on my PJs. So I think it's
Yes,
like, is that something that you recommend maybe to like the people that are joining now, that they want to do, okay, how to stay more positive?
yeah.
What are like your tips and advice of practical things that we can do to establish like a routine?
Beautiful. Well, I think the first thing to remember is that you have a direct connection to your joy, your excitement,
Mm-hmm.
your passion. And we probably get interrupted by all of the projections that we adopt from other people, all the
Yeah.
expectations we have. We all have connection to our joy, and that's what you're pointing to. Joy is one of the highest frequencies, as is love, this excitement, this passion. So that can be the nucleus or the barometer for how you're moving through your day. Now,
Yeah.
some people, love the fuzzy. I love like the fuzzy clothes. Like this is a fuzzy sweater. I love my little fun earrings because they're like super New Year's, like celebratory.
Yeah.
Anything you can do in a very simple, seemingly superficial level, like even the expression of your clothing or
Yeah.
or what you're listening to with music or the podcast, anything that's going to lift your vibration. I do weekly talks every Sunday that are live called
Yeah.
Sacred Sunday. And that's my weekly check-in with all of my people because it's a little shot in the arm once a week that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily compromise your physical body, right? It actually elevates your vibration and it
Exactly.
lets you, so something like clothing, something like what the music you're listening to, it's so you cannot underestimate the impact of what you put in, what you
The
feed
food as
yourself,
well,
the
exactly.
food,
Like I
what
can
you put in
totally
your
see it
mind.
when you have a week of like not eating like healthy or like drinking a bit
Yeah,
too much. I can totally
yeah,
immediately see on my body as well. Yeah.
absolutely. And you can feel it energetically. When you eat too much, you feel very sluggish. There
Yeah.
is a very scientific reason for that. If our bodies dip below, I think it's like 62 megahertz, that's when we're susceptible to disease.
Yeah.
And what lowers our vibration and gets us sick is what we feed ourselves that's toxic, whether it
Yeah.
be toxic thinking, toxic food,
Yeah.
toxic programming, toxic conversation. So it's very simple. People want to dress it up and be gurus and be worshiped for like some massive awakening, but it's really very simple. It's like, what do you feed yourself with
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically?
Perfect. Thank you so much. And for
Yeah, of
example,
course.
Now in the process that we are almost ending the year, what are your advice for like setting your intentions and materializing
Yeah.
so 2021? I'm a true believer that you can actually materialize things, and everything that you have in your mind, you can attract, whether it's the universe or God or even yourself.
Yes. Yes.
So what's your advice like now that people are like thinking ahead on the next year to set their intentions? Any tips that you can provide? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that, because that's on everybody's mind right now. It's like, all right, 2020. And I'm hearing so many of my students, my friends, even I catch myself doing this, like, oh, I can't wait for 2021 to start.
I cannot
Yeah.
wait, but it's gonna be probably more of the same, but like hopefully
Well,
not.
it's all up to us and what we do, which is why your question
Yeah.
is so apropos right now, because yeah, tomorrow is the last day of this very fateful year, this very transformational year of clear seeing of 2020. And
Yeah.
if, as we're moving into the new year, whether it be this one or whether it be 10 years from now, the most
Hmm.
critical thing is to not get diluted by the new beginning. Let it
Yeah.
excite you, but
Yeah.
recognize that there are patterns in place that we all have. And I work with
Yeah.
patterns a lot. I talk about patterns, I talk about archetypes in my coaching. The more you are aware of your patterns, physical, mental, emotional, behavioral,
Hmm.
spiritual, societal, relationship patterns. I do a lot of couples counseling.
Yeah.
The important thing when you're wanting to make a change is to know where you are in the first place.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So a really clear drop in. So I love journaling. I give a lot of journaling meditations for my students, but also, and for myself, of course, because I'm a human like
Yeah.
anyone else. What's the reality right now? And because we live in our separate existence ourselves, like we can only see so much. We can only see our perspective. So I recommend working with a coach, whether it's me or with
Okay.
somebody else. I think getting in touch with a group, I also do group channeling sessions,
Hmm.
or working with one-on-one to get outside of your brain, because it's kind of like
Yeah.
seeing the forest through the trees. Doing a very clear assessment when I start working with somebody, and you can take this and steal it and work on your own, is
Yeah.
to do an assessment of every area in your life. Give it a number, 1 to 10. Say, this is really working, because we always want to go to what's not working. Like we're
Yeah.
really, we
I think
yeah.
we should touch the topic of the channeling. So for those
Yeah.
that you
Oh,
don't
sure.
know
Yeah.
exactly, I had an amazing channeling session with Anne-Margaret a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was shocking. It was a very like personal experience because she connects with an energy, right, Anne-Margaret?
That's
Or
right.
how do you call it? Is it an energy or yeah?
That's a good question. I call it spirit. I call it God. I feel like this
Yeah,
is something that we all connect to. We can all connect to our a deep a oneness. A lot of channels refer to it by a specific name. I just call it spirit.
yeah. And then during the my session, I mean, even it was a magical experience because you can also see like what you had in your previous life and
Yeah.
identify patterns, as you say, that you are
Yeah.
doing in this life that you don't know where they're coming from. Like, for example,
Right.
I had like a
Right.
biggest scare of commitment. And if I share with you guys, it's basically on my previous life, I was forced to marry someone.
Right.
So yeah, so in this life, basically, I have a big scare of commitment, of like not being free. Like I'm a very free spirit. So that's something
Hmm.
that come up in my channeling. So these channeling sessions with Anne-Margaret are really good if you have certain patterns that you don't know why are you doing, like why I have a fear of commitment, or why I don't know, like why I have certain fear of like raising my voice or like expressing
Right.
myself. It's
Right.
probably things that you had in your previous life that you haven't healed. So I think it's really good when you have this extra help on the channelings
Hmm.
to heal, to identify like yourself, and then get better. Because I think like as I truly believe that you have several lives. I don't think it's just this one. So I think sometimes we carry on things from previous life, and then you materialize on this one. So what's your advice from that? Like, and Margaret,
Hmm.
like if you can explain more or less how the channeling works for those people who
Sure.
want to maybe like try a session. I even managed to connect with my grandma who is passed away a couple of years ago, and that
Oh,
was a
it's
exactly, it was a
beautiful
very
energy.
beautiful experience
Yeah.
and a
Oh, yeah.
beautiful energy.
Yeah.
So even for people who haven't like have the one family that has been gone,
Right.
dead, and they want to heal this cycle,
Hmm.
because sometimes you know, like when somebody leave your world, like this terrenal world, it's really hard to like move away and like carry on with your life.
Yeah.
So if you can tell us more about the channeling and how to use that to your day to day, I'm sure people would love to hear that from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you were able to do that, experience it firsthand. Just to give you a little bit of a background with the channeling, I am someone who needs to know why something works, needs to know how something works. So this idea of piercing the veil between this world and the next, or the spirit world, or whatever it is, I've always, if you're a skeptic, you're in good company, because I've always been like, I wouldn't, to tell you kind of example of this is when I first started practicing yoga, Dali, I wouldn't put my hands in prayer. I wouldn't bow. I wouldn't chant
Yeah, I'm
om.
a little bit like that as well. I'm like,
I honestly was like, no, thank you. I need to know why I'm doing this. I'm not going to blindly subscribe to a spiritual or religious practice. I
yeah,
was raised very Catholic, very religious. And in high school, I always attended mass every week, because you couldn't miss that as a Catholic.
yeah,
And I would also attend another service from another religion, or another sect of Christianity, or I just wanted to study. I've always been very fascinated my entire life about human dynamics and our relationship with God. And I'll use that
yeah,
term. And if you get triggered by it, substitute universe or whatever source, whatever works for you. But I've always been really fascinated by that. And it's been very important in my heart to understand what that connection is all about. And I'm in my early 40s now, and so I understand a lot more about my purpose than I did in my
yeah,
20s, and then in my 30s, and then, like, in hindsight, being 2020, looking back and going, oh, that's why I've always
yeah,
that's why I did what I did. That's why I attended, as a big spiritual nerd in high school, 2 services every weekend. I mean, as a high school student. So my approach is like, I want to keep it practical. I want to understand how this guidance that we all have access to can be applied in a practical way, so that we can start really enjoying our lives and not just suffering through it. How we
yeah,
can treat this life as a gift. So now, in my early 40s, I feel like I'm finally understanding that I was put on this earth. My purpose here is to help people heal 3 things: their relationship to themselves,
yeah,
their relationship to life, like living life, like living
yeah,
this human journey. And then thirdly, healing their relationship to God,
yeah,
healing their relationship to source. And so I started, as I was teaching 20 years ago, and I'm a songwriter and a spoken word artist. So I first experienced channeling through my own artistry. And then when I taught, I would have things said out my mouth that were way too articulate and brilliant. I was like, that
yeah,
did not come from me. Like, I know it didn't come from me. And so I was teaching, I was still very much the student, and I'll be forever a student, and would hear this channeling coming through when I spoke. 5 years ago, it evolved. The channeling became involuntary movements, like involuntary hand positions of mudras. Too much. There's a whole video on how this evolves, so I'm just putting in a very tight nutshell that you can access on the YouTube channel from
yeah.
my
For those
Instagram.
who
Yeah,
don't know, channeling is more or less how it goes in one session.
yeah,
It's basically, and Margaret has this capacity to connect with the energy. It could be like one of your family who has been passed away. It could be like the source. So this energy kind of like goes into her body, and she's able
yeah.
to speak through that voice. So it's not basically Anne Margaret talking. Is this
Right,
like your family member, or it could be like another energy, and then
right,
you are
right.
able to do certain questions, like for example, like, do you have a message for me? Like, for example, like my grandma, when she came on my channeling, it was beautiful because she
Yeah.
told me that she was always there for me,
Hmm.
and she gave me like tips on how to connect with her. Like, it was really
Hmm.
beautiful experience. So I totally recommend everyone who wants
Yeah.
to get
Thank
to
you.
know more about themselves, or like connect with people that are not on this physical world as well,
Hmm.
to have one of the channeling sessions with Anne Margaret. It's like a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Yeah, it's wild. I honestly, when this started, this energy started speaking through my mouth, and I'm conscious the entire time, guys.
Yeah.
So I
It
was
can be a
totally,
little bit scary, Margaret.
it
I
was
would, yeah,
totally,
at the beginning,
I
you
know, I
know,
give a
for
warning. I'm like, by the way, my eyes are closed and my mouth kind of wraps around the left side of my face. Like it's weird. And when this first started happening, I was like, what is this? But it never felt negative. It
oh,
never felt heavy or anything. It's always a very uplifting energy. And the wisdom that comes through in the sessions, I'm blown away by. I just get to witness it. And it's almost like my consciousness kind of steps to the side and I allow this energy to speak through me, literally through my mouth. So it's not like an intuitive or receptive, and then I'm
yeah.
speaking through my own words. I'm literally allowing this voice to speak through me.
Yeah, we have a question, Sinclair,
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
connected. And he
Sinclair, hi, darling.
and he say he has a question
Beautiful.
for you. He say, how does one manage energy that is passed down generationally on both extreme, very strong negative or positive energy? Because that's very interesting.
So
Like if
good.
you have this energy, it could be from your parents or from your grandparents, and you have that from your upbringing, how you are
Yes.
able to heal. What's your advice, like when you feel that that energy is not you, but is the way that you've been raised, for example? Yeah.
Yes, it is such a good question, Sinclair. I think that this is something that so many people can relate to. Family dynamics are one of the most challenging and the richest for
Yeah.
learning and growth that we have. And
Especially
it's
when you
something,
come from a complex family, like
oh
there
yeah,
is a
oh
lot of
yeah.
heal to do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And my it's like, how do I put what I would say and how I would coach into a very tiny nutshell? It would be this. Everyone is your teacher. We in yoga, we say what? Namaste, namaste, namaste. And it's so overly used, this word namaste, meaning the light or the teacher or the divine within me bows to that within you. But if we recognize that, in my belief, in my experience, I believe that God is in every single thing, every person, every trauma, everything is an opportunity. I can't prove it.
Yeah.
I can't prove that there are other lies. I can't prove
Yeah.
whatever is going on with me. I don't know what it is. But I would say recognizing that everything is divine. And when you look
Yeah.
through those glasses, some people may say it's Pollyanna. It's not. It's actually a strategy to harness the most and extract the most wisdom from life, and to be able to get your tools so that you can be as free as you can. So in looking at somebody like your father, your mother, somebody
Yeah.
who you're a sibling who has caused a lot of havoc, of negativity or darkness or pain, is to recognize that that is probably going to be your greatest teacher in this life.
Yeah.
And after you
Yeah.
get over the sort of like ego death that could bring, it's to say,
Yeah.
okay, well, what do I have to learn? And it's not the obvious, like, don't do what they did. It is more really recognizing what they're bringing that is incredibly valuable to the table. For example, a
Yeah.
lot of people who are who are very reactionary. When they see their parents do one thing, they'll say, well, I'm going to do just the opposite. Like if your parents were religious, you're going to, oh, I'm not going to even go there, and go to the other end
I'm
of
not
the
even like
spectrum.
that. Like I'm a very rebel.
Exactly. And we all have that
I
rebellious
feel
spirit. We all
recognize
go through.
myself, and I'm sure more of the people watching feel the same. You know, that you want to do the
Absolutely.
opposite of what you reject. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that that's really excellent. As a young person, you need to find your own way, and you need to kind of get outside of what you know in order to find life and to find it according to your beliefs, your desire to experience.
Yeah.
We're all here to have this experience. But the big mistake here is this. If you go all black with somebody or all white with somebody, meaning if you just see somebody as all evil or all like nothing redeeming, or perfect, and nobody's perfect,
Yeah.
nobody's all bad. If you
Exactly.
look at every single person as having both those in them, a gift, a blessing, and a
Yeah.
humanity, like a human quality, then you can extract the wisdom. But it takes consistency, guys. It's not
Yeah.
easy. It's not like a flip of the switch. Awareness is, and you'll get an insight, but we're such creatures of habit, which is why, like, why I'm offering this workshop in January. It's 8 weeks that people have
Yeah.
breakthroughs in their life that they haven't had in like 30 years of therapy, because you recognize your patterns and then you implement them regularly. And
Yeah.
if you even
Exactly.
implement them over 30 or 60 days, as we do in this workshop, then your life begins to shift. For example, like if you
Yeah.
look at, think about it when you're little, like your mom or your dad or whoever your caretaker was, when you go outside, they'd be like, well, don't forget your coat, and you'd be like, ugh,
Yeah.
okay, fine, mom, whatever. But if you and I'm using a very silly example to prove a point, that if somebody is doing something to you, like questioning all your life choices, or really
Yeah.
being in your face in a very painful way, we have the capacity as divine creators to interpret that however we want.
Yeah.
That's the key that most people forfeit.
Yeah.
We go into victimization rather than staying creation. Okay.
Exactly.
So somebody says, like, take your coat, take your coat, take your coat. You can go, every time she says that, I'm going to hear, I love you. Because she wouldn't
Yeah.
say that, or
That's
he wouldn't say that. They
yeah.
wouldn't say, what are you doing with your life? You're ruining your life.
Yeah.
Okay. To look through to see
Especially,
the
Margaret,
subtext.
sorry to interrupt you, when you
No, it's
come
fine. It's
from
fine.
very like
Yeah.
street families, or very
Yep.
like families that are focused about society, or like, or parents that are
Yeah.
constantly pushing for the best. I think
Yes.
sometimes you feel this energy that sometimes maybe you might feel that you are not enough, or you can
Absolutely.
or
Yeah.
like, or you will be doing things just to please your parents or to please your grandparents.
Uh-huh.
How you cut this kind of like, I'm not sure if it's energy, but like how you cut these relationships in order to be like, okay, this is me. Because sometimes it's actually really hard to find out who you truly are, because you are surrounded by the people who you live
Oh
with, your
yeah.
relationship, your
Yeah.
family. How, from your advice, how do you know, okay, this decision is mine, or this is the way I need to take from
Yeah.
yourself, rather than what's externally telling you to do,
That is a great question. I love these. These are like the juiciest questions and I
Sorry,
love
we're
them.
meant to do half an hour, but it's
No,
running a little bit over.
it's
But I
I'm
think people
happy
are
to do it.
excited with the topic. If anyone has any
Yes.
questions, please send it over,
Oh
and
yeah,
Margaret
please.
can respond personally as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. And this is what life's all about, isn't it? It's understanding the deep questions and having the courage to ask them. So I'm happy to do this. Your question was like, how do we know if we're operating from our own will or from the will of
Yeah.
others projected onto us? And that's no easy question. That, one of the greatest teaching that's it's actually inscribed on the Temple of Apollo. It is know thyself. It's one of the top 3 messages in the ancient Temple of Apollo. And so like the philosophers through history, they're asking the same questions that we're asking today. Know thyself. How do we know thyself? Okay. How do we
Yeah.
know that we are operating and we're not operating like, we get when we really accept the projections and the expectations of others, we can
Yeah.
use them to fuel us, or we can
Mm-hmm.
use them to derail us from our path. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people know what that feels like. So,
Yeah.
and to know yourself, you have to spend time with yourself. And to spend time with yourself doesn't mean sitting in hours of meditation, although it might.
I
Maybe
hate
that
that.
appeals to, I think a lot of people, I think a
We
lot of
like
people get freaked
practical
out.
things, like, I mean, I know there is no quick way, but things
Right.
that we can
And the
implement quickly.
Right. And we were given a very logical brain for a reason, to be able to understand practical spirituality, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that it comes from a few different places. So spending time with yourself, and it might look like your
Yeah.
meditation is going for a walk every day without your
Yeah.
phone, because that's with somebody
Exactly.
else. Being with
Exactly.
yourself, being with your emotions, being able to reflect, to journal, doing things like that.
Yeah.
And then
Journaling is
also
really good.
recognizing Journaling, I love
Journaling
journaling.
is
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, especially like when you write down
Yes.
things, like what you're actually feeling, and you can go back. It's like, oh, this day I felt this way. You can
Yeah.
see the patterns and identify like when you were feeling sad, what
Yeah.
makes you feel excited, and then based on that, kind of like plan ahead. You know?
That's right. And what the magic of journaling is no magic at all. It's literally taking
Yeah,
what's in your thoughts and putting it on
yeah,
paper. And then when you take
exactly.
thoughts and put it on paper, or with a coach, like I do with my clients, dissolve it through dialogue, then when it gets out of your head, it loses power.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
it is
that's
talked
good.
about with somebody else, it also
Mm-hmm.
loses power because you're able to
Yeah,
dissect what is reality versus what you're
yeah.
making it mean. You're
It's like
dissecting the
based on
facts
Kabbalah as well,
from,
that they say you shouldn't share everything because what are your thoughts on that? Like, I like sharing a lot of things, but I read a book the other day on Kabbalah, and they say sometimes it's better not to share everything. What are your thoughts on that?
sure, sure. I'm a big believer that transparency is power. Our ability to
Mm-hmm.
be absolutely transparent is powerful. And and things that we're desiring to manifest, they can work two different ways. If
Yeah.
we just share and invest our energy in talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about manifesting in 2021, right? The resolutions
Yeah.
we have, the goals, the dreams. If
Yeah.
we're just spending our energy talking about it, but we don't have a structure like a workshop, working with a coach, having certain
Yeah.
practices you're doing every day, every week, you're going to spend your
I'm
energy
guilty of
talking
that.
about it and not. I think a lot of people are. I certainly am. So you
It's
can
like, yeah,
just
I'm
talk about
consistently I'm
it.
gonna do this, I'm gonna like do that, I'm gonna get super fit and healthy, but then like you
That's
spend more
right.
time actually talking than implementing. So your advice will be
Yes.
mainly sit down and have a structure, okay? Is that more or less what you say?
Yeah, there's a difference between being transparent and sharing in exchange for action.
Okay,
You
okay.
understand? So it's transparency, being open, I think is a very powerful thing to do. Now, you have to know how to
Mm-hmm.
protect yourself, obviously. I can't cover
Yeah,
all of the facets of how to do that, but I do
yeah.
believe that one of the things that we want as human beings, more than anything else, and anybody go ahead and disagree with this if you want, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that what we want more than anything as humans is to be free. Free
Yeah,
to be who we are, free to say what we desire to say, free to do and create what it is we want to create, free.
yeah,
But
yeah,
how to decipher what it is that we want to create versus what our parents wanted us to create,
yeah,
and being able to stand on their shoulders rather than kick them to the curb and kind of forge our own way without really reaping the benefit of what they've given us, what they've handed the baton
exactly.
to us. And so many of us
Mm-hmm.
take the baton and we throw it away rather than
Yeah,
standing on their shoulders and learning what's next. So I do believe it's very important to respect what's before you, to
yeah,
recognize what has come before you, and to heal the relationship that you have to your elders, to the people in your
yeah.
family. And that's no easy task, but there are simple formulas you can learn to be able to do that as a daily practice. I, in my own life, have experienced this, you guys, very intimately, very intimately. And I didn't sit and download all this information, although I think I was guided quite a bit along the way of my teaching
Yeah,
career. I sought this because I needed it. I teach now what I most needed to learn. I went through what I went through as a human being and my own
yeah.
struggles, and I still do every day. I'm learning every single day. I think it was Paulo Coelho who wrote The Alchemist, who said, a
Yeah,
wise person has a lot of questions, and a dull person has a lot of answers.
yeah, that's
And
true. Yeah,
I love that. I love that. And I think that's really true when it comes to how we're moving through our lives on a day-to-day basis, because if we have a lot of answers, we're
yeah.
operating from the past. And
That's
if we have a lot of
interesting. Yeah.
questions, we're operating from the present. And
That's
how do we
interesting.
learn and grow and evolve? And if we think about, we're maneuvering down the stream of our lives, one of my favorite things to use with my clients is the simple nursery rhyme. I don't know if everyone has this all over the world, but the simple nursery rhyme of row, row, row your boat. Do you know this one?
Yeah. No, I'm not sure.
Right? You may not know it. In America, it's a very common nursery rhyme, and it's row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. It's a little song that we
Oh,
say when we're kids.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's such wisdom in that, because if you think about it, as we're navigating the course of our lives and the rivers and the rapids of our lives, because we've experienced quite a rapid, maybe
yeah.
class 5 this year in 2020. If we're rowing down, we're not just drifting in a boat through our lives like a victim getting
Mhm.
knocked around. We need to consciously
Yeah,
row. And how
yeah,
do we do that? We need to row our boat, row, row, row your boat, right? Row, row, row
yeah.
your boat, not somebody else's.
That's
And
true.
usually we
Yeah,
get lost because we get sidetracked in order
exactly.
to change somebody else, like our roommate, our partner,
Yeah,
our kids, our parents, our siblings. So row,
yeah,
row, row your boat. And what does it say? Gently down the stream. What
yeah,
that means is don't go upstream. Like, listen to
yeah,
the guidance that God, that your signs, the angels, your guidance, other people, we're in a co-creative experience here. So if you're
yeah,
rowing down the stream, listen to the stream, listen to the current,
yeah. We have an
and go,
interesting question.
yeah,
Sorry
yeah,
to
yeah.
interrupt you.
That's
We have a
okay.
question. So how can we identify and heal inherited trauma so not to pass it on to our future generations?
Beautiful question. And I know that you asked that out of love because you do not want to repeat the traumas that were inflicted on you. So I just
Yeah,
want to acknowledge who was ever asking that question, and all the questions today have been wonderful. It is coming from the desire to not do harm.
yeah,
So I would say the first thing is to recognize within you that there is that desire. There
yeah,
is that desire already, because so many times we get so afraid of doing the deep work in our lives. Like, I can't even
hmm,
go there because I can't even think about the trauma that happened to me when I was 7 or when I was 20, or getting
yeah,
raped or molested, or all these like very real traumas that people go through
yeah,
every
yeah,
day. And they feel like, I can't go there to those deeper traumas because what if I find out that I'm a monster? What if I find out
yeah,
that something I can't deal with? I had the same fears. Like, when I started, I mean, my entire life I've devoted to studying my own human dynamics and dynamics of others. And I know that just having that question in your heart should tell you something, that you will not do that. Now, do you need tools to do it? Yeah, you definitely need tools to not make those same mistakes. But I think one
yeah,
of the first things is to know, believe in your goodness, are a separate individual from that which you came, or from whomever raised you, whatever they passed on. And in order to not repeat that, there must be an immense amount of forgiveness and reframing. I'll explain what I mean by those two things, because forgiveness, to practically apply the spiritual teachings of all the great masters. And I've gone to a 2-year interfaith seminary with my husband. Like, we studied all the world religions, and and studying the common denominator of them, one being a very practical application in our life to liberate ourselves, is forgiveness.
yeah,
Forgiveness does not mean condoning what happened. I'm going to say it again.
hmm,
Forgiveness does not mean condoning what happened. Forgiveness is letting go, is snipping the cord that has kept you revalidating or reliving that trauma in your life. All right. So the forgiveness is a detaching, it is a very self loving thing that you're doing for yourself, right? Rather than drinking the poison of resentment, anger, rage, and holding on to that and letting it brew within you. And the second thing I mentioned was reframing. This is a technique that is critical if you are going to be able to be successful in your life and not repeat the patterns you were handed. All right. Reframing is being able to, and this is what I do in my 8-week long workshop that starts January 11th. All right. Eight
yeah,
weeks long, is being able to look at the patterns that you've been given and be able
hmm,
to extract the gold from them, to be able to not just try and bury them under the rug or point the finger of blame at that perpetrator, but to recognize the blessing in every single thing that's happened. Because unless you recognize the blessing, and that seems like an oversimplification, and it is for time purposes, because I don't have time to do an 8-week workshop in this live,
yeah,
but it's about taking something and understanding if you can get to the point of gratitude, not that the person inflicted the trauma, but that you were able to use that trauma to grow stronger, to have a new perspective to help somebody else, or it helped to steer you onto a path of service or deepen your level of compassion for those who have been through the same thing. Until you get to that point, you are at risk of repeating those patterns because they have not been healed. They have not been
Yeah.
integrated. Yeah.
Even from relationship as well, sometimes when you come out from like a relationship that wasn't good, sometimes you have to
Yes.
heal that in order not to bring that in another relationship. Or even from your parents, if your parents don't have
Yeah.
like a great relationship, you also have to like do a lot of like healing and embracing it to like don't make the same mistakes. It's more or less. Oh, they are saying thank you for your answer.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you for being
Yeah,
open.
and then just to
Yeah.
wrap up, like I know, for example, with 2020, one of the biggest learning that people have take from this year is how to be more present, how to be more connected. I
Yeah.
think 2020 was a year to realize that material things are not important, but like being with the people that you love and like being healthy. What's your advice to be more connected on 2021? How to materialize better relationship, whether like with your partner, with the people you spend your day to day, or like to connect with others in a more I don't know, like energetical way or in a more like genuine way?
Mhm.
What would your advice will be to have better relationships? Your advice? Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I would say that one of the most important things is to recognize that everything is a relationship. So you
Hmm.
mentioned like repeating the same mistakes from your past relationship and your current relationship.
Hmm.
Our souls want to experience and to evolve and to grow and
Yeah.
to learn. And the year can be the same thing. When we come to the end of a year, we
Yeah.
want to jump into the next relationship
Yeah.
without recognizing and using that previous year's wisdom. I think every
Hmm.
relationship that we are in is
Yeah.
first and foremost, and this is a rule that I teach by, live by, every relationship is an opportunity for my growth.
Hmm.
Every relationship. So in recognizing that, when you look towards 2021, and it's not an opportunity for their growth because we
Yeah.
have enough going on here, so we need to stay self-centered, so to speak, because we have enough
Yeah.
going on to recognize that it is our duty to grow and evolve, right? As we move into 2021, we have to look at 2020 and say, what was this year? And the reason why I call the workshop, and I've taught this workshop for almost 20 years, Living Metamorphosis, is
Hmm.
because I believe that as we move through life, in order to be successful, we have to recognize the cocoons that we're in, like a butterfly,
Hmm.
right? Metamorphosis is the transition, the transformation from a caterpillar into a butterfly, right? So
Yeah.
in living that transformation day to day and living that metamorphosis day to day, we'll never be suffering. We'll only be curious about how to move forward. So in looking
Yeah.
at 2020, we've been in a very much a cocoon-like year, quite literally
Mm.
being
Yeah.
isolated, being in these lockdowns, being separated from our families. And what's beautiful about it is our priorities have changed. We haven't realized that in 2020, we've been in this cocoon of
Yeah.
darkness, that it's
That's
seemingly
true.
like, oh, I just want this to get over with. Well, yeah, we can look at 2020 as the worst year of our lives or the greatest, most transformative year we ever experienced. It's up to
It's a big
us
learning.
individually.
It's exactly, even myself, it's a big
Yeah,
learning because like everything that you thought was your reality, you realize that it's not. And then at the end of the day,
yeah,
being with your loved one, like you realize what's simple things in life that make you happy. At least from my
that's right.
personal experience, and like 2020 was a very tough year, but also a big year of learning, as you say.
Yeah,
And to
yes,
understand that like what actually drives you and what actually makes you happy, and like things that you enjoy doing. And it's sad that we have
mhm.
to learn in this way because it's like it was very shocking. But I guess like we kind of like need it. Yeah.
Well, that's right. That's right. And it's incredible because we didn't consciously choose this. We didn't
Yeah.
consciously all go, "Hey everybody, let's have this thing that happens around the world, right? But that's how life shows up for us, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like we don't
exactly.
necessarily consciously choose something. I'm a big believer in our unconscious choosing
Yeah,
things to attract lessons for us. I'm a big believer
yeah,
in that, as
yeah,
well as choosing our families, like our family of
yeah,
origin. And when we look at something like 2020, yes, it has been an opportunity for
yeah,
immense transformation, immense mental, emotional, spiritual, across the board, societal
yeah,
transformation. And if we recognize this cocoon of darkness that we've been in and have the courage to be in the darkness, because the darkness is not the enemy. The darkness
yeah.
is where we have immense growth if we have the courage to be there. And if we have
Yeah,
somebody
that's the
who
thing.
can,
It's not easy because
yeah.
it's like, like you have all these
Oh,
distractions that then when they get
yeah,
removed, the only person that is there is you. And like
that's
sometimes you don't
right.
want to even face yourself and like be like,
Yes.
okay, without all these words that surround me of like, I don't know, like travels or like parties or
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
things that like that is only yourself. So, but not you have to have the courage to go deep inside you and be like, okay, this is what made me happy. These are my fears. This is what is bad in me as well. So I think
Yeah,
that's a big lesson from 2020. We had to face it, like even if
it
we didn't want.
is.
Yeah,
It is. And something I just want to say on a more sobering note is that suicides are up this year more than
yeah,
ever because
yeah,
people are having a really hard time. So while
yeah,
we want to keep things festive and light and fun and superficial
yeah,
sometimes, the reality that a lot of us are dealing with across
yeah,
the board, across the nations internationally, is that people are really having a hard time being human, being in
yeah,
the thick and the throes of the
yeah,
challenges, of the pain, of the
yeah,
isolation. And that is why I feel that my life work is helping to heal people's relationship, not only to themselves and how
yeah,
and their own journey, their own pain is one of the greatest teachers that we have. But what do we
yeah,
usually do? We watch Netflix, we eat something, we smoke something, we drink something, anything to avoid the reality that we are being shown, and to heal
yeah,
people's relationship to this being human. Because if we feel all the feels and we recognize the depth of depression or the depth of grief in our hearts, we can recognize that that grief is not just sinking our hearts, it can actually expand the heart to hold more love.
yeah.
And that is to recognize that and to fall in love with the challenge. I'm not a masochistic person, but I also think that if we are able to fall in love with the challenges of life, the emotional
Yeah,
roller coasters, the waves as they rise and fall, like we do playing a game, like playing a video
yeah,
game or watching a movie that has tense parts and scary parts and sad parts, fall in love with our lives in the same way that we do with this entertainment, we're going to navigate our human journey so much more effectively, because we're embracing, a boxer
yeah,
fights, right, and hits force with force. A
yeah,
martial, and there's a great impact, there's a huge impact on the body of that ricocheting through our joints, literally in our physical body. A martial artist, somebody who is trained to receive the blow coming at them, receive it and redirect it, doesn't suffer the impact on them,
yeah,
the other
yeah,
person's impact. And what this is about, what all my techniques are about, is how do we take whatever we're being given in life and use it as a tool to build our life, and to
yeah.
recognize how to neutralize the rest and not adopt it, not get pushed down by it or box layered out by it.
Amazing. And also, my last question will be if you
Yeah.
have to describe 2020 in one word, what it would be?
Ooh, that's a good question. A gift.
That's a beautiful one. Yeah.
And I
That's
make that
beautiful.
crazy face because I know a lot of people just want to discard it, but it is a
Yeah.
gift if we have the
Yeah.
courage to sift through all the embers and look through it. It is a gift.
Yeah. And I know that you are not like kind of like an astrology in that sense to predict the future, but like
Right.
how do you
Right.
see for 2021? I know it's not your specialty, but
Right.
is there like something that we have to learn in next year? Yeah.
Yes.
Is there
No,
any
here's what,
advice?
no,
Anything
here's
that
what,
we can
yeah.
learn? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The channeling that I do, the coaching that I do, everything, but the channeling, what the spirit says every single
Yeah.
session is that it does not forecast the future because you were created with free
Yeah.
will, as
Yeah.
was everyone. And
Yeah.
what we have is a gift. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah. I can hear
am I
you. Yeah.
breaking up? Okay.
Perfect. No.
So since we were created with free will, we must
Yeah.
adopt the accountability for what we're creating, both on a
Mm-hmm.
microcosmic personal level and on a
Yeah.
macrocosmic global level.
Yeah.
Okay. So because we are given free will, we have had this and what I would predict based on looking at society, like a student of mine or my own growth or any of my clients, is that since we have collectively been in the cocoon, we are now knocking on that cocoon and prying open a little hole and now moving
Yeah.
through it. Now, here's a
Yeah.
very important thing to leave you guys with is this. If a well-meaning, those of you who want to help other people
Yeah.
and keep them from their pain, and you wish somebody else would just give you the answer so you don't have to deal with the level of pain that you're going through right now, I
Yeah.
want to remind you of something, okay? And it's this, sorry. I'm getting a call from my little nephew. I'll have to call him after
Oh,
this.
I think you
For
call
those
it.
of us who try and take away other people's pain or
Yeah.
want somebody to take away our pain, remember, we've been in the cocoon this last year, right? So
Yeah.
a butterfly, the way that it gains its strength to fly is it pokes a hole in the chrysalis and then it
Yeah.
pries itself out. And then it's in the struggle that
Yeah.
butterfly gains its strength to actually fly. And if a
Yeah.
well-meaning passerby walks by this chrysalis, this
Yeah.
cocoon, and sees this little butterfly doing everything it can to struggle to get out and rips the chrysalis open for the butterfly, it will never fly.
Yeah.
And if we can remember that as going from 20 to 21, that we've been in this cocoon and we are in the struggle. And with the struggle, we are gaining the strength that we need. We are really, truly gaining the strength that we need to
Yeah.
fly, to live, to grow, to attract what it is we desire. Then we can fall more in love with the struggle, fall more in love with the challenges that we face,
Yeah.
and also get support around it. It's so, so important. Have support, get a coach, take my
Yeah.
workshop. If you can do it, take the workshop. It starts on January. I'll do my plug, my shameless plug. It's January 11th,
Oh, it's
January
called. Oh,
11th,
okay.
2021. It's on
Okay.
Monday
Yeah.
nights. Yeah, am I here? It starts on January 11th on Monday nights for 8 weeks in a row, and Monday evenings in uh, New York time, New York City
Yeah.
time. So, but you can also sign up for it and watch it in hindsight too, in replay. But
Brilliant.
it's 8 weeks long about implementing our patterns and
I
how to
definitely need
create
to
those.
join.
Oh, I'd love to have you in there. It'd be so fun. And then if you want one-on-one sessions, I know you can contact us through the website.
They can contact on. Yeah.
That's right. You can contact through Instagram. You can also do one-on-one coaching or channeling. But I also do something really cool
Yeah.
on Zoom to do group coaching or group channeling
Yeah. Maybe we
sessions.
could do
So,
one for all my followers and my friends that connected today.
oh, that'd be so
We can have a
fun.
special session like on Zoom where we can do
Yeah.
channeling and do it in a more private way. Yeah.
Yeah, and then bring your questions. Bring your questions
Brilliant.
about everything, everything. Yeah, it's
Brilliant.
such a blessing to bring this into the world and to be in the presence of this spirit that talks through. It's so
Yeah.
cool. So
I totally recommend it. It's a little bit shocking, but it's totally
yeah,
recommended.
it
Yeah.
takes like a minute to kind of adjust to it because it's
Yeah,
a different energy completely.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
then yeah.
Well, but thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Dolly. It's
Yeah,
been so great,
I
and thank you
hope
for
you
all the
have
great
a beautiful
questions.
new year, a good start of the next year. And there is a lot of learning that we need to do, and we can use.
Yes.
I think there is a good energy now with the eclipse on Cancer.
Oh,
Full
so good.
moving Cancer for like kind of
Yes.
like see what home means and like
Oh
set
yeah.
the intentions as well. Yeah.
Yes, and it really, we're in a day with numerologically that is also very much pointing to looking back. There's a
Yeah.
30-20-10 numerology right now, just today,
Yeah.
with the full moon in Cancer, for us to look
Yeah.
back and say, all right, what did we do and how can we do something differently? I mean, it's just perfect energy for this time of
Yeah.
year. And like you said, like, how do we
Brilliant.
find our new home? Like, we've been all stuck in a home
Yeah.
for all year. So, I mean,
Exactly.
with
It's the
that full
new
moon in
meaning of
Cancer.
home. Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly. Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful.
I think for the
Yes.
next life we can do a channeling, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, perhaps we'll have somebody on, I'll channel for them and do a sample that way, and maybe answer some questions about how it began and how the all backgrounds, the backstory with it, because it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's for the next one. This
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
we have to take it easy, set our
Exactly.
intentions for next year.
Beautiful. Oh,
Yeah.
Dolly,
Well,
thank you so
thank
much
you
for
so
having
much.
me.
Big
It's
kiss
such a
from
pleasure
London.
being with everybody. Mwah! And we'll see you again
Bye.
soon.
Take care. Bye bye.
All
Thank
right,
you,
bye, honey.
everyone.